Hi there and welcome. This is episode 3 of the Knitter Next Door podcast. My name is Angela, or AngieB, and you are joining me here in Mansfield, where I live with my husband Richard and my 2 sons Aidan and Ezra. Aidan will be 13 in August and Ez is coming up for 2 in September. We have a Staffordshire Bull Terrier called Layla or Bernard, kind of depending on what mood we're in or what day it is. And we have 2 naughty Bengal cats called Lily and Teddy. You can actually follow them on Instagram at #LillandTed. Regarding social media, you can find me online as AngieB in most places. So Instagram it's at AngieB, the B being spelled BEE _79, and on Ravelry I am AngieB1979. Okay, so this week I thought I would have a go at just changing things up just a tiny little bit. I've got a couple of bits of sort of vlog inserts that I'm going to put in here and there just to highlight a few different bits and pieces that I've been doing, so you'll see those coming up. So I have a finished object. It is the Sabrina Junk top by Born and Raised Knits. Last episode you will have seen this as just a very tiny cast on that I'd done, probably no more than perhaps 1.5 inches, 2 inches at the most, along the bottom. Well, since then I have finished knitting it and here it is. You may well have noticed that this was what I was wearing. Okay, so I'm just going to stand up and give you a better look at it. Here we are. So this is where I was last time, so you can see I've made quite a lot of work on there. The bottom colour is by a company called Make Me UK. The top is Rosy Apple, and this was from You Mama. Both of these are indie dyers that I found on Etsy. In both instances they are finger and weight yarns. They've been held double, so I caked the yarn and I held it from the outside and the inside at the same time to achieve the solid look. And then this of course is 1 strand of this colour held with a strand of this colour, and then at the top it is 2 strands held in exactly the same way as I did for the darker colour at the top. A lovely knit, really simple pattern to follow. There's nothing particularly difficult about it at all. She goes into plenty of detail to allow you to get the fit that you want. I did make a slight adjustment to the pattern, and that was in order to achieve this finish here. I veered slightly away from her instructions. So the lady in the pattern, so the lady from Born and Raised Knits, asked you to knit the front and back separately from where you've sort of separated underneath the arms. So you would knit the front and you would knit the back as 2 separate pieces, although they're still joined underneath. And then once you get to this part where it's high enough at the front or high enough at the back, you are then asked to cast off. Then you're asked to pick up stitches along here as part of making an I-cord, which I wasn't sure about doing, I have to say. I'd noticed somebody on Ravelry mention this point, and at the time when I read the comments it hadn't really sort of sunk in what they were talking about, but yeah, if you've cast off this edge and then you're going to pick up stitches along it, it seems to make more sense probably just to leave those stitches live, leave them on a piece of scrap yarn, and then you can just kind of take them off of there one by one as you go along, rather than casting off and then picking up those stitches again. So that's the only difference, or the only alteration that I made to the pattern as it was actually physically written. But yeah, I love it, I really do. You can kind of wear it inside out as well. It doesn't really sort of make that much difference, so it's equally as nice on the back as it is on the front. So yeah, quite reversible. There are no seams or anything like that, so yeah, it's really beautiful, really quick to knit. It's been great for me because I had these 2 skeins of yarn sat in my stash. I didn't particularly know what to do with them, other than I thought they might look kind of quite nice together. So yeah, this is perfect really as a bit of a stash buster, and it's made a beautiful top for summer. Both of the yarns that I used are sort of standard sock, so it's merino, nylon, They've also got the sort of 5% stellina content in there as well, so they're both sort of fairly sparkly yarns, which means in the sunshine this top looks absolutely stunning. Yeah, I knit the next to smallest size. What I did find when it was finished was that for me personally, the fit was just a little bit cropped. It was exactly how it's intended to be, and I did know that this is how it was going to be before I made it. It was just when I put it on, I wasn't overly confident about sort of going out in public wearing it, so I blocked it really quite aggressively. So what I'll do is I'll put some footage in now just to show you the process that I followed when blocking it. This occurred to me the other day, actually. A friend of mine came round and she mentioned that she'd seen some of the blocking that I'd done on knitted shawls that I'd made, and she's done blocking in the past. She knows kind of what to do, but she wondered what my process was specifically. So she brought a shawl that she'd finished, and we went through the process, and I just thought, actually, you know what, it can't hurt to just give a little demonstration of the process that I use. There's loads and loads of different ways of approaching it, depending on the fibre that you're using, depending on you know what it is you're trying to actually achieve by the process of blocking. I mean, if all you're wanting to do is just kind of smooth out the stitches, then you might use a very, very different process to, let's say, if you were trying to open up very intricate pattern on a lace shawl. So I will show you now the process that I used for stretching this out basically to the shape that I wanted. Okay, so here's Sabrina sitting in my sink. The water is just tepid and with a very, very small splash of Eucalan. There we go, focused. Okay, this is the stuff I tend to use for all of my wool washing and blocking, anything that needs that treatment. Eucalan is what it will get. I find it makes the yarn nice and soft, and it's got a really sort of mild, really light fragrance. This one, it's nothing obnoxious at all. It's really, really nice. Okay, I just placed the top onto the water, and then I just let it do its thing. Poke it down very, very, very slightly, and I mean really, really, really gently. But I find if you just leave it alone, it will sink down into the water naturally anyway over a period of time, as the fibre absorbs the water. So all we have to do now is wait, and I will see you in around about half an hour's time when we are going to remove the water. Okay, so we're back. This has been in here actually probably about an hour now, so I've left it a little longer than perhaps I was intending to do. But what I need to do now is just to get as much water out as possible. So how am I going to do this with you? I think what I might need to do is just squeeze as much out by hand and then show you the next step. One moment. Okay, so if anyone's interested, there's the water afterwards. Here's my top. I've literally just really, really gently squeezed the water out by hand. And now comes the extremely graceful bit. You'll see down here. Here's my towel. On it goes, on the floor. And then I make like a little sausage just with the edges of the towel. I'm going to roll this up. And then this is the magical bit here where we stand on it. Okay. And get my delightful bunion feet in the shot there. Thank you for those, Dad. It's not my footwear, thank you very much, everybody. It is a hereditary condition that I did inherit from my father, and I guarantee you my father does not wear high heels. Hi, Dad. Apparently he washes this. So there we go. Right, so yeah, very, very technical. You see, just squishing the water out. So now what we will do is we will unwrap and see what we have. There she is. Okay, so that's already got a significant amount of the water out. So onto the blocking mats we go. So here she is in the sun. What I have remembered I was going to do was to try and get a little bit of extra length out of this. happy with the top, I have to say. I am really, really happy with it. But for me, personally, to be as comfortable as possible wearing it, which of course is the whole point, isn't it? I mean, who wants to feel self-conscious and awkward when they're wearing something that they want to be, you know, proud of and happy with? So I'm just going to see if I can get a little bit of extra length out of here. That is my mum and dad's dog next door, barking. Her name is Kylie. So there she is, complete with a billion T-pins. Just show you how I put these in. It's literally just a case of angling them in like this. I don't mind if I get a sort of slightly wavy bottom on here. If I was pinning a shawl, I'd be probably a whole lot more concerned about exactly how I did this, but for this I literally just want to hold it in place and just to kind of give it a little bit of extra length in the body bit, and I think that looks great. So we'll see what we've got once it's ready. So I hope that made sense. So as you can see, it was a very simple process, really, just of soaking the yarn with some sort of wool treatment, wool wash, just to allows you know, the thing to be nice and clean, as well as those oils just helping to sort of soften up the fibres. It really does give the yarn a treat. Sounds ridiculous to say, but it does. It makes those fibres so much more sort of soft, and it helps it to bloom. And yeah, I'm really, really pleased with it, and just allowed me to pin it into the shape that I specifically wanted it to be. So there we go. That's my Sabrina Junk top. So the next thing I want to talk to you about will be my Like a Cloud cardigan. So this is the one that I'd started last week, or not last week, but last episode. And so yeah, this is a pattern by Joji Locatelli, and I am knitting it holding double 2 yarns from Kristen and Voolenvine Yarns, and that is her Infinite Lace and her Ghost Lace, and those are the details of those there. So we've got 100% Blueface Leicester, and we've got a kid mohair and silk blend there. They're both in the colourway Weep, and it's producing an absolutely gorgeous fabric. I'm just going to show you what I've got left on the first skein of yarn. So this is the Infinite Lace, and this is the first skein that I started. I have actually now gone into my second skein of the Ghost Lace, but there's only about half of what's in here in these. This was a 50 gram, this was a 100 gram skein. And here it is. I've made quite a lot of progress on this, actually. If anyone has been following me on Instagram, I do post pictures of it sort of semi-regularly. So yeah, that is where I've got to. Can't actually see the screen to know if I showed you that very well or not. So what I will do is pop this on, and then you can actually see what that equates to in terms of it being worn. So yeah, nice dropped sleeve there, as you can see, and I'll just stand up and you can see where I've got to. It's absolutely beautiful. It really, really is, and it's such a simple knit, but an interesting knit at the same time, so you don't get bored, although this is just like a huge sea of body to knit now, and you're knitting the side panel, the back, and you know, the other side panel all across in one row. At no point does it get boring, because this textured stitch here, you've got a couple of rows of knit 2, purl 2, you've then got a couple of knit rows and just fully purl rows, and then you go to purl 2, knit 2. So this sort of, it almost looks like brickwork appearing, but that really keeps your interest, because you seem to be doing something different, slightly different each row. So yeah, it's fairly simple, but yeah, you still have to stay on your toes. And there have been a few times where I've sort of got most of the way across the row and then gone, what have you done? And I've done something wrong, and I've had to sort of tink back. So tink, that's knit spelt backwards, so just knitting backwards. because there ain't no way that you could actually frog this and rip it out. That's not going to work. So yeah, you have to tink, not frog. So anyway, there's been a little bit of hoo-ha I've noticed online with a few of the people that are knitting this. Basically what happened, I think, from my understanding anyway, is that when the pattern was released, there is a sort of a what will it be, 6 rows or whatever it is, repeat, that builds this pattern. So it's kind of knit and then purl and then knit 2, purl 2, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But when you very, very first cast on, you knit a row and say purl a row, and then the instruction tells you to follow the instructions for the pattern repeat for flat work or working in the round, depending on whether you're making the body or the sleeves. So here's me. I follow that instruction and I go from a cast on and a knit row straight into a knit row, a purl row. So I got sort of a little bit of a ridge across the shoulder here of just stockinette stitch, and I think this is the same thing that loads of other people have done. A bit later on, as you come to a different section, so as you start and pick up the front panels, because you knit the back first, and then you pick up stitches across the back and knit the front panels. How he's very specific now in telling you which pattern row to start on from when you start to knit here. So it was start at knit 3 rather than, start at row 3 rather than starting at row 1. But I think possibly that might actually have been what she meant for you to do for the back as well. So rather than casting on, knitting a row and then going straight into your stockinette section of the pattern repeat, I believe she may have also sort of intended for people to start on the row 3 for the back panel as well. So before I came to knit this, I had been watching other podcasters talking about this cardigan and talking about, well, specifically Kristen of Voolenvine Yarns had mentioned that, you know, there'd been some issue. I couldn't really, at the time that I watched it, quite process exactly what it was she was saying, other than that there'd been a problem with it. The problem had been resolved. The designer had released, you know, a pattern update, and so therefore she was going to be ripping out some of her work and redoing it. So I thought, oh, that's a good tip to know. So when I come to do it, so I came to do it and was aware that the pattern had been corrected, and so I just kind of knit. But then I looked at my work and I'd still got this kind of ridge across that was quite a bit of stockinette where the front and the back joined across here. So I ripped back. I thought, you know what, I must have got this wrong. I must have misunderstood the instruction. And there was absolutely no way on this God's green earth I was going to frog the entirety of the back panel that I'd got to, because basically you start, it's difficult for me to explain properly, but you start and you knit across the whole of the length of the back panel. You then work this way until you hit the underarm. You then pick up stitches across here and knit first one of the fronts and then the second front. And then the idea is that you knit those to the same length as the back, and then you can join the whole thing, not quite in the round, but you can join it across as one piece underneath the arms. So I was not about to frog all of the back panel so that I could just correct this small bit over the shoulder where the pattern repeat kind of was just giving an extra couple of rows. So what I did instead, as a bit of a compromise, you can still see a sort of slight change in the texture down here where it joins, but it is really only slight, and that's because I've got probably an extra 1 row, maybe 2 at the absolute outside. But what I did when it came to picking up for the front panels was, instead of picking up and going straight to row 3 or whatever where it takes you into stockinette, from stockinette on this side, was I ignored that instruction and I picked up my stitches as pick up them knitwise 2, purlwise 2, knitwise 2, purlwise 2. So in essence, I negated the stockinette section and went straight into the kind of ribbony bit of the ribbingy bit. That's definitely a word. Of the pattern repeat. So I probably robbed myself of a couple of rows further down, but basically what it did was it really minimised, or I think it did, that bit across the shoulder where it joins. It's here, look, I can see it actually now on my camera. It's there. So you can still see it, but it would have been, or let's say it was a whole lot more noticeable before I took it out and redid it in that way. And that just minimised the amount of ripping back that I had to do. So yeah, I just picked up the stitches, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 instead of all knit. That's all I did. And yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm really, really happy with that. Had to be careful when it came to picking up the second panel, because it needed to be able to flow as one row. So where I ended with a purl 2 here, I needed to start with a knit 2 on this side, so that when you came to join the whole thing up, it works. But yeah, that's fine, and I think it's worked nicely. I'm certainly very, very happy with it. Very, very happy with it. Yeah, so I don't think there's much of anything else to say about that, other than I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm really pleased with my progress. And oh yeah, I took this to the beach with me last week. My husband had the week off work, and so we went with the boys to the coast at the weekend, and yeah, I decided that I was going to work on this. Yeah, that was foolish. Mohair, sunshine, 26, 27 degree heat, suntan lotion, sand. What's to go wrong there, apart from everything? So yeah, I didn't make a whole lot of progress on the beach with it, but I got it out and I took pictures of it for Instagram, and I at least put in about 10 stitches. So yeah, I made loads of progress there. That was that one. Will say I've been a bit naughty with this one. It's indie dyed yarn, so there isn't a cat in hell's chance of the skeins being exactly the same. They'll have come from the same dye lot, so they'll have been done at the same time, but it's hand dyed, so they're not going to be the same. And so really what you should do is to alternate from one skein to the next every couple of rows, just to kind of minimise the look of the colour change when you go from one skein to the next. But yeah, I just couldn't be bothered, and there's not really anywhere to hide my my changing over from one skein to the next in amongst this. So I'd normally do it at the side, but I don't want to carry up loads of sort of twisty yarn over bits along the edge, so I haven't done that. What I'm hoping, fingers crossed, is that I'm going to be able to get the body out of this first skein, and then my second skein is going to make the sleeves. So I might have slightly different coloured sleeves, and the body. You know what? I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference with it being a grey colour. It's not like it's loads of different fancy colours. This is all sort of just fairly similar in colour. It's tonal. There are sort of different values of this grey in here. Some bits are lighter than others, but overall, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference, or at least I've got my fingers crossed that it's not going to. So that's that. Just lazy. Maybe a bit stupid. I don't know. But I'm hoping it'll be okay. Hoping. Something else I have come back to now is my N Club. So that is a mystery knit along, yarn along club thing that I signed up to at the end of last year. It's been run by a lady called Laura Nalkin. She's a knitwear designer, very, very famous knitwear designer, in fact. And yeah, so she has this club whereby basically there will be 3 garments, and you get the thing as a kit, and the pattern and everything is all kind of released all at the same time. Laura does a live video on Facebook and sort of shows you the grand reveal of the pattern, and then everyone knits together. So the most recent one of these is my caramelised cowl. Here we go, here's my progress to date. And so what I've started to do now is to knit the final panel onto it. What I've been saying the past couple of episodes was that I'd got my stitches held on a piece of yarn like this, but in the round here, and they were just a provisional cast on essentially, that were waiting for me to get my arse in gear and finish it actually. So yeah, day before yesterday, I took my stitches off of the provisional cast on. What I'll do actually is I will insert a little bit of footage, because again this was something that I thought might be fairly useful for people to be able to see. I don't know, something I'm playing with this week is just adding little snippets of video clips in here and there. I thought it couldn't hurt, so I'll just pop that in now. What I'm doing at the moment is something that I thought might be a little bit interesting. This is my caramelised cowl. This is a design by Lauren Elkin that I've mentioned in the previous 2 episodes, and what I've been saying I needed to do was to unzip my provisional cast on and pick up the stitches so that I can knit the next piece of the work. And I just thought it might be interesting to try to capture this on camera. So yeah, this was a provisional row of stitches done with a crochet hook, and I found it a really pleasant way of doing a provisional cast on, I have to say. And so yeah, I'm just picking up the stitches, and then as you can see, just unzipping as I go. And so I don't know whether you can see this very well or not, but in here, that's my crocheted chain. It's attached to a live stitch, so I'm just going to pick that stitch up onto my needle and then unzip that next chain. I used very different yarn to make my provisional cast on to the yarn that I was using for the cowl. That was done very specifically on purpose, because of course if I were to use a sticky yarn, this would have been a whole lot more difficult to achieve. The other thing I did was I made it purposefully a very different colour, again just for ease of seeing what I'm doing as it came to this stage. The tempting thing to do is just to use the yarn that you're going to use, but no, really bad idea. I don't know how much of this you can actually see, whether this is worthwhile footage, whether I will use it or not, but I thought it might be interesting. Got around about 300 odd stitches to do this for, so it's not going to be a quick job, but it's something a little bit different, and it's not unpleasant at all. It's actually quite good fun. There we go. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, see, this yarn has got sort of quite a few little fluffy fibres hanging around it, and they seem to sort of get wrapped around each other a little bit, so occasionally need to just break a few of those, but you can see hopefully there's my stitch. I'm going to pop my needle in there just to catch it, and then I can unzip the next one, put my needle in, unzip, put my needle in, unzip, and there's no rush with this, there's no hurry at all. The main thing is making sure that I'm actually catching the stitch properly and not rushing, because it's not a race. It doesn't matter how long this takes. But what would be a nightmare would be to drop these stitches at this point, so yeah, just really carefully, one at a time, making my way around, unzipping. And I was not keeping my eye on the camera, so if you couldn't see what was occurring, I do apologise. So yeah, I picked up all the stitches. You can see here's all of my stitches now on my needle. And then yeah, I got the surprise of my life really. I'm not somebody where it comes to knitting that goes ahead and reads all the way through the pattern and really familiarises myself with the techniques and things involved and exactly what I'm going to need to be able to do. I'm really stupid in this way, and it's the only area of my life where I don't do that as well. But I just knit it, and I just kind of come to the instruction and do the next thing, and then come to the instruction and do the next thing. I mean, what did they teach you in school? You're doing an exam, you're doing anything. It's like read through all the instructions first. Make sure that you've fully familiarised yourself with exactly what it is you're doing before you start. And I never do. And yet I always did that at school. If I'm cooking something, I always do that. If I get a new appliance of any description, I go all the way through the manual. I'm really kind of quite anally retentive about things like that. And yet with knitting, I'll just do it, I'll knit it, it'll be fine. And it's normally kind of is fine actually. And I think I've just got a bit complacent is probably the right word with my knitting. And I don't know, I think until I actually come to carry out the instruction, it doesn't really go in what it is that instruction is trying to tell me to do anyway. So I think until I've actually reached it, the words don't really mean anything to me. So reading through the pattern isn't really helping me. I guess, you know, just kind of having a brief look at how things are being constructed, etc. But yeah, I don't study it. I don't do that. So yeah, getting back to topic, the fright of my life when I commenced making this final panel, and I'm just going to show you this a little bit better if I can. Okay, so just ignore that bit there. That's just holding the stitches from this end. So that's like a little bit of a provisionally cast on a few stitches at this end. What you have to do is sort of, you say knit a couple of rows, etc. There are a few yarn overs that sort of go blah, 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 blah. And then you knit a little bit more, and it's all just nice sort of stockinette stitch. And as you go in along, what you're doing is you kind of slip in stitches at this end, just kind of creating a nice smooth side. And along this edge, what you're doing is you slip in a stitch, you're knitting a stitch from the body of the cowl, and then passing your slip stitch over. So in that way, you're binding off these stitches that were live here previously, and you're creating this lovely edge here. So yeah, I'm knitting along, la 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 la, get to about, I don't know, say row 5 or 6 of the repeat. I could be wrong on that. But then the instruction is knit 3, drop the next stitch. Knit 3 and do what? Drop the stitch, you say. So just drop the stitch. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, okay. But I mean, I trust Laura. I trust her. Her patterns are absolutely amazing. Her written instructions of patterns are absolutely amazing. She provides little video clips, all hyperlinked through her patterns, that you can just kind of click on anything that you're not sure about, and you can guarantee there'll be a little video there that links you straight through to a video tutorial that she would have done that shows you specifically how to do something if you're not sure. I've not actually had to use them. I've looked at them, but I've not had to use them because the way that she actually physically writes out the description of what you need to do is so precise and so well worded for me anyway. Obviously everyone has a different learning style, but for me, yeah, I can follow the instructions no problem at all. So, you know, even these sort of fairly complex wrapped stitches and things like that, yeah, no problem at all. No problem. Never done them before, it doesn't matter, it doesn't make any difference. Not complicated, you just follow her instructions and it's great. So yeah, Laura says, knit 3, drop 1. So Angela knits 3 and drops 1, and it's against every fibre of my being. And then you have to knit a couple more and drop 1 again. And then the next row you kind of purl across, and then you knit a few more and drop another one, and you knit another one and you drop another one, and it's like, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's going to ruin it. I don't know what's happening. But I carried on. I trusted Laura. the knitting ninja goddess that she is. And yeah, so you sort of get to the end of this little bit and you go and the stitches all unravel back to, of course, where you put the yarn overs in. It doesn't go any further than the yarn over because the yarn over's stopping it going any further. And the upshot being, it just creates this beautiful effect here. It's really kind of quite lacy and strange, but gorgeous. So then when you're done with that bit, she takes you into a fisherman's rib section. And then you've got another crazy lacy bit and another fisherman's rib section, another crazy lacy bit and another fisherman's rib. And so this is where I've got to. I've done a few of these repeats. I think I've got, I think there are like 11 or 12 repeats altogether. The good thing about that is once I'm finished going round, the entire thing is done, it's finished. So I'm really very, very nearly there. I just kind of hold up what bit I have done. That's the bit that's finished so far, and that's the bit that's not finished. I think I'm probably about a third of the way across, and it's took me no more than, I don't know, perhaps a couple of hours, something like that in total. Yeah, I am, look, I'm a third of the way across, with 2/3 left to go. Another thing that that Laura mentioned to do was just to stick a stitch marker in each sort of 18 stitches or so. So that's what I've done. I've just kind of clipped one of these stitch markers over each time there are 18 stitches. I've not done it for the whole piece, it really doesn't matter, I can just move the stitch marker each time I finish a repeat. But yeah, just to, so you don't have to do it, but just to help you keep track of exactly where you are, because there's a few different things going on at the same time. This is my live bit, this is what I'm working on, this was what was held on the provisional piece of yarn. So there are 18 stitches here now. I'm about to go into a new repeat, and yeah, by the time I've finished what I'm doing, I should have reached this next marker, and that just kind of helps me keep on track, so on and so forth. So yeah, I will definitely have a finished object for you for next time with this cowl, and I'm really looking forward to that. Just wanted to show you this. I made a little, what's technically a DPN cozy, and I did notice that actually it works rather well. There's just a little interchangeables cover, because my needles aren't going to fall out of there, and they're also now not going to poke my cowl. A couple of other pins and things on my bags that I've not really mentioned. My mum has told me who this bag was made by, and I'm really sorry, Mum, I've completely forgotten again and I've not written it down, but I just want to show you this pin here. This is from Amber O'Brien, so she's a shawl designer. I think she's out in Australia, you know. But yeah, this was her little logo turned into an enamel pin, and it's sparkly and it's spangly and it's very shiny, and I'm a bit of a magpie, so that's mine now. And this one, I picked this up from Stephen and Penelope's stall at Edinburgh Yarn Festival in March earlier this year. But yeah, I love this bag so much. This is the one that's got my Like a Cloud cardigan in it. It fits tons of stuff in it. No handles, no special features, no nothing. But yeah, I just really like it. But I'm sorry, I don't know who made it. Mum will tell me. I guess what I could do is just go and ask her. You won't know this, but part of the reason why I decided to call the podcast The Knitter Next Door was because my mum lives literally next door. So through that wall there is where my mum lives. And she's a knitter and I'm a knitter, so we're both the knitters next door. So yeah, I really could just walk that way through the gate at the back of her house and go and ask her who made it. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I should do that now. Okay. Yeah, so that was easy. I don't know why I've not done that before. I really don't. I'm just a bit rubbish, clearly. It's made by a company on Etsy called Lovingly Lavender. So now you know. Something else I've done a little bit more work on since last time is my Coziest Memory blanket. So this is by Kemper Ray. And yeah. So I think last time I showed you I'd done this one and this one, this is Skein Queen Neon Watermelon. This was my Malibu Joe yarn. Persia. The colourway is Persia, and I think I'd started on this one. This is Debbie Bliss Botanicals. So I finished that one. This is the yarn that I made my ambient sweater out of. So the Eri sweater that I was wearing in the first ever episode. So ambient sweater by Eri. So this is Titus 4-ply from Eden Cottage Yarns. So it's silk and merino. So that's that one. And then I've done some with the Cosmic Strings yarn that I knit my Shusui shrug from. And then this one is another Eden Cottage yarn. So this one is the colourway Sparrow. And this one I think is something like Foggy Morning or something like that. It's really not showing up true to colour, unlike all the rest. All the rest are showing really, really true, but this one is more of a minty green than you can see on the screen there. But yeah, so I put a few squares on there. I'm really pleased with how this is turning out. Really, really like it. And as I said before, I made this little bead just using a tutorial that I found on YouTube. It's really, really cute. Really, really cute. Took quite a while to make because you have to actually sew the beads together individually using a peyote stitch. So it takes a little while to do. Not like dead long, but it's, you know, a good few hours worth of work for something that's really, really tiny. But yeah, I like it. I really, really like it. So it's well worth doing. And I think I put a link to the tutorial last week, but I'll link that again for anyone who might be interested in sewing tiny beads together to make stitch markers. There we go. I did make a new start, and that was on my West Knits Mystery Knit Along. I've mentioned this in the last 2 episodes. So this was a club that my husband signed me up to. It was the Stephen and Penelope Yarn Along, and so I cast on to begin the Meshy Twist. And I will insert a little piece of video footage from a couple of days ago to explain what happened next. Okay, so I just wanted to video and show you quickly what this looks like before I completely rip it out. As you can see, I've already been frogging some back. But basically my problem was this little piece here. The way that this was constructed was that you cast on some stitches, worked a few rows, then picked up along the side of the rows and finally pick up against the cast on edge, which has left me with a little ridge. And I thought I could leave it, and yeah, no, I can't. I don't know who I was kidding. I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, that to me is really noticeable. So what I'm going to do is I am going to remake it, but this time instead of just doing a normal cast on, I will do a provisional cast on along here, and then as I come to pick up the stitches here, I will literally just be unzipping the provisional cast on. It's only a few stitches. I hadn't really got that far. I know myself. I needed to undo it and redo it. So there we go. That was my little Stephen West start. I wonder how much I will have done by the time I'm showing you this. We shall see. This is Ange from the past, over and out. So, hello again from present Ange, and where did I get to then with my Stephen and Penelope Meshy Twist? Here it is. It's living in my Pixie Yarns bag. So this is from Pixie Yarns on Etsy, little pug bag, little sack that she made there. So what's hiding inside is my higher sharps, and on them they have nothing. Zip nil. That's where I got to. I didn't. Hey ho, not to worry. Yeah, what I've done had taken me probably maybe 2 hours or so. I was on about row 20, something like that, 70 odd stitches on. And yeah, that little sort of ridgy bit at the beginning was just sort of bugging me more and more with each row. And I'm thinking, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, and it's not fine. So yeah, I ripped it out. So that's that. I will start again. I promise. So I'll hopefully have something of that to show you for next time, because it was knitting up beautifully. It really, really was. The side panels, there were twisted stitches. These were growing from sort of make one left and make one right on either side. You got this mesh. The mesh was interspersed with a couple of rows of garter. So it was actually flowing really, really nicely. So it's just such a shame to have that little bit that was just for me letting it down. So yeah, I know personally I can do that sort of slightly differently. Just have those stitches held live on a piece of waste yarn, or you know whatever, just provisionally held till I come back and knit across them. And that way, hopefully, you shouldn't have the sort of noticeable join that it was getting the way that I was doing it before. I was probably doing something wrong. I'm sure I was doing something wrong, but you know, this is the way that I know to correct it. So there we go. I shall do that, and that will be that, and it will be a lot nicer, and I will be happy. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is probably something that a few people might find a little bit sensitive as an issue. So I wanted to just start it off with a warning that this is what the next perhaps 5 to 10 minutes will be about. And that is the collective that has been arranged by Countess Ablaze. So bye to anybody who doesn't want to talk about it. Okay, for those who do, it's a lady in Manchester who goes by the name of Countess Ablaze. You're probably all well aware of kind of the back story, but just for those who might not know, back in probably March of this year, the Countess, who runs her own hand dyeing studio in Manchester, where she hand dyes yarn, was approached by a local business who wanted her to donate time, materials, clientele, everything to a charity event that they'd kind of cooked up. And the kind of, to boil it down in essence, it was you do all the work, you give all your stuff, all your time and everything, and in return we give you exposure for a good cause. So the Countess was like, no, you're all right, thanks. And kind of as part of the story as well, they kind of really offended her client base as well. Kind of there was a comment about shit tea and tray bake, and so the Countess's kind of response was to basically make something incredibly productive out of the whole experience. She dyed 2 new colourways, one called shit tea and tray bake, and the other one called if I want exposure, I'll get my tits out. And she donated, loads of the proceeds to charity, a woman's charity in particular, that helps people who are in abusive relationships, that this sort of thing. So fantastic, brilliant experience. A brilliant outcome from quite a negative experience. So a little bit later on, fast forward to probably last month, so that would be June, and it became apparent to the Countess that somebody somewhere was plagiarising her colourway, the if I want exposure I'll get my tits out colourway, sort of really distinctive orange and purple colour. And so again, rather than create a big hoo-ha, rather than jump up and down and get angry, the Countess, in true Countess fashion, turned it into something very, very positive indeed. She basically, on the fly, she was making it up as she went along. I was watching the live feed on Instagram, the live video as she did it. She was just like, right, this has happened and this is what we're going to do. She released the recipe for the colour, the details of the dyes that she used to achieve the colours, and just said to indie dyers of the world, fill your boots, make my colourway, do it, please do it. I invite you to do it in your own style. Couple of rules though, you've got to call it if I want exposure I'll get my tits out, and then insert name of your version, and you've got to donate at least $3, £3, 3 whatever, to charity from the sale of each skein. She then opened it up beyond indie dyers, and it involved sort of notions makers and pattern designers and all sorts of people in the industry, to be able to, you know, put their contribution towards what was then called thereafter the Tits Out Collective. It's something, oh God, I really wish that I was a designer or somebody that dyed yarn or made things that I could have contributed to this, you know, from that side and raise money. But, you know, in my own way, I was able to contribute because I bought some yarn, I bought a pattern, and that's what this entire meandering story is about. So I bought the exposure top by Julie Knits in Paris, which was designed to showcase some of these beautiful, if I want exposure, I'll get my tits out versions. And I bought Hannah's tits. I bought Hannah from HJ Yarns as tits because she's got really pretty tits. So I bought 2 skeins of Hannah's tits, which were called If I Want Exposure, I'll Get My Tits Out, but I'd prefer a hug or something like that. The dyers that got involved were invited to support their own charity. It didn't have to be the same charity that the Countess donated to. They could choose whatever charity they wanted at all. And so Hannah's charity is a charity that donates towards, that does work with people who are suffering from mental health issues. And that is something that's very, very close to home. So not only, I mean, I know Hannah from having attended her dyeing workshop. I've bought Hannah's yarn in the past, and it's awesome, it's excellent, and Hannah got her tits out, so I had to buy them. So kind of that's how that went. So Hannah sent me a message last night. Her yarn is in the post to me, so I'm really looking forward to casting on an exposure with my new tits. Okay, so here I've just printed out a picture because I've not figured out how to insert pictures yet of the exposure top. So this is by Julie Knits in Paris, and this is knit in the original If I Want Exposure, I'll Get My Tits Out edition by Countess Ablaze. So the original colourway, and yes, so I'll be knitting this in Hannah's edition of that colourway. The Tits Out Collective is going on for the whole of July, and already you see in posts left, right and centre on Instagram. You know, so far I've raised £300, so far I've raised £200, so far I've raised, you know, insert whatever amount of money. There are, I believe, something like 250 independent business people involved in this collective so far, and so I think it's well, it's stunning. It really is stunning, and it's so beautiful that something so constructive and so inspiring could come out of what essentially were 2 sort of fairly negative experiences. And that the Countess has chosen to kind of rise above and to do something just that benefits so many people now on a global scale. I mean, these indie dyers and pattern designers and people that have come together are literally everywhere all across the globe. So yeah, I'm really excited to receive my yarn and to do just my little bit by buying some of the yarn. So another plan that I have for the next couple of weeks is that I would like to join in the Christmas in July knit along that Megan is hosting. That's Megan from Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits. And my plan really was just to work on the Christmas balls. So that's the Ana Carlos book. These are super cute. I'm sure everybody is well aware of these. Back end of last year, so through December, I decided to have a little go at making these. This is when I sort of first started getting into doing little bits of colour work, and I made one. I can't put a picture in. I don't have the right software to do it, but you'll be able to see it on my Instagram feed if you did want to have a look. And I made it from this Malabrigo sock yarn. So this is the same stuff that my beaded shawl was made from, and it's the same as one of the little squares in my memory blanket. But I made this the main colour, and then I offset it with some spangly anchored crochet cotton, metallic crochet cotton, and it looked absolutely brilliant. I did one that had like a little bell on it, so the bell in the gold and the rest of the ball in this sort of midnight blue. It looked great. I'm just going to have a flip through the book to show you which particular one it was that I did. Hang on a moment. Okay, so it was this one. That was the pattern. So I did the bell in the gold in the crochet cotton, and yeah, the background was that sort of navy blue colour. It looked really, really lovely, and I was really, really pleased with it. And it was tiny because it's knitted in 4-ply. It was sort of came out about yay big, something like that. And yeah, it just looked really, really pretty on the tree. So I thought, you know what, I want a load of those. I set my stall out. Yes, of course. New Year's resolution was, I know I am going to knit one of those every single month, all year, because it only takes a couple of hours, so you know that's no hardship to do at all, is it? And then I'll have 12 of these ornaments that I can put up on my tree. And yeah, it's July and I have knitted none so far, so I'm doing really well. Doing really, really well. So yeah, I thought maybe now's the time. Christmas in July, perfect opportunity. Just set a few things down for a bit and just focus on this and join in on Megan's amazing knit along. So yeah, that's something that I may, oh let's face it, may not do, but good intentions. Yay, good intentions. And just to show you, my little Christmas ball yarns are in my little Christmas bag. This is also from Pixie Yarn. She has some really, really lovely bags. This was the first one I ever bought from her. So Pixie Yarn, it's a lady called Sophie Newey, and you can find her on Etsy. And she has bags and she has beautiful hand-dyed yarn as well. So that's my Christmas in July, Christmas balls in my little Christmas kitties bag. There you go. Okay, so last week we had a cameo from my little boy Ezra, and this week my son has just returned from school, so I'm just going to invite him to say hi. Just say hi. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Say hi. Thank you. So that's Aidan. My two boys. I have to show you what's going on down here because my little boy has come to me with okay, he's come to me with 2 dusters and a pair of sunglasses on, completely naked other than for his nappy. Oh baby, you're a good boy. You're gonna say hi to everybody. Hi for this week. Oh, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Please what, baby?
What?
Please what? Okay, say bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye, good boy. At some point you'll meet Lily and Teddy. I can see Teddy scuttling around in the background, but unless I want to lose limbs, I probably not better try and pick him up and show him to you. Lily, she's really, really friendly, but I have no idea where she is, so... Oh, no. My son has found Lily. Hang on just a moment. But this is Lily. And Lily's beautiful, aren't you, baby? She's so beautiful. She says, no, stop it. I'm too beautiful to be on camera. But yeah, she's my baby. And we've had her 5 years now. We got her in June 5 years ago, and she was about 12 weeks old when we got her. But yeah, that's Lily, and she's beautiful. And she hates being held and cuddled, but she will put up with it. But if I tried to do this with her brother, Teddy, I would have no face right now. So I would have no face. Oh, okay, you are released. I free thee. So here's my destruction. I just wanted to show you Mr. Ted's Fred's beautiful kitty. He's so lovely and he really likes cuddles. No, he doesn't. You better watch yourself. You better watch yourself. I'll have your face. And there's Lily. He's alright. He just doesn't like being picked up. There we go. That's Ted. Oh, you can hear Layla in the background as well. Layla, come here. Come here, baby. Come here. I'm going to come and say hello. Come say hello. Come say hello. Layla. There she is. Oh, everybody. My name's Layla. So, now just be quiet. Stop it. Stop tapping around. I'm going to have to let the dog out. Hang on a moment because she's just getting a bit excited. Come on, let's go. Out you go. Good boy. Too hot for doggies. Too hot for doggies outside at the moment. It's a bit scary actually. Seen things in the news of dogs dying in the heat and people walking them in these really high temperatures and stuff like that when they're not used to it. So yeah, I don't like her being out there too much because she's stupid. She will just literally fry. She'll just stay there in the sun, and she's dark in colour, and it just kind of, you know, it really, really gets her, but she likes to just sort of stay there and cook herself, so you have to really keep an eye on her and not let her stay out there for too long. What's she doing? Oh, anyway, right, okay. So, I was trying to sign off. I was trying to say goodbye. Thank you very, very much for coming to watch me. Thank you to anyone who's actually returned and watched me dribble on again. And for anyone who's made it through 3 episodes, I think maybe you should get some sort of like badge of honour or something for listening to me witter for that amount of time. But there we go. I'm really enjoying making these episodes. I hope that there are people out there who are actually kind of enjoying watching them as, you know, quite as much as I'm enjoying making them, because that'd be really, really good. Yeah, I know now from the numbers that I've got, which are still minuscule, don't get me wrong, but they are significant in terms of it can't just be my mum and dad watching it repeatedly now. So yeah, I will see you in about a fortnight's time. Thank you very much, and bye. Happy knitting. Hi there. Welcome to episode 3 of Ange Has Really Dodgy Hair. You're joining me here in Mansfield on a very, very sunny Thursday, the 5th of July. I'm looking down here because my little boy has decided he wants to say hi. He's going for his nap soon. Well, we can't leave that in, can we?
Boobies.